Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tangent Podcast. This is Jack and Austin coming at you here with a episode. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
with an episode, yes.
I just woke up from a nap. That's my excuse.
An addition, a segment.
A segment.
What's another word for episode? I don't know.
Let's see.
An event, an occurrence, a chapter. We're coming to you with a chapter.
A chapter. An affair. An installment.
Installment.
I like installment.
That sounds nice. An
Nice
installment.
and official. Today is going to be a bit of a different episode. Not super different, but we don't have a lot of information today. And we also don't have a lot of time, so this is going to be a short and pretty mellow episode, just talking about current events and what is going on in the world today, and we're just going to chat about it.
Mellow, but also surprising and kind of freaky at the same time. So
A little bit.
if you've been keeping up with current events, I'm sure that you've all heard about all of the weird things going on across the country right now with chemical spills and fires and UFOs, and so we're going to dig into all those things a little bit and go over,
give our 2 cents on what we think's going on, and
we could call this our own State of the Union address, I guess. Is what it is for you. Yep. So, first one that was really the big one. Well, did the UFO come first, or was it? I guess the balloon came first, right?
Well,
the Chinese balloon.
The Chinese balloon was first, yeah. But that's not really all conspiracy-ish. There's really not a whole lot of weirdness to go off of there. It's more of a, do you believe China or do you not kind of thing. Is it an amateur weather balloon, or was it actually a spy balloon?
The weirdest thing to me is that we didn't shoot it down.
Yeah, that was weird. Oh yeah, it was. Like I think they first sighted it over Montana, if I'm correct, but they didn't. And then it went down a little bit, and then went through Missouri, I want to say, and then off to the right towards, I want to say North Carolina is where it crossed over into the ocean, and they didn't shoot it down until it was past land. And supposedly they did it on purpose because Biden said, I wanted to shoot it down, but when I told them to shoot it down, they said, we're going to wait until it won't hit anybody on its way down or cause damage or injury. Which, I mean, I guess makes sense, but I feel like they could, wait until it's over like a forested area, or it went over Montana. I'm sure they could have shot it down and had very low chance of it hitting somebody.
There's like 5 people that live in, I'm pretty sure there's more bears that live in Montana than people, so yeah, they could have easily taken it down. But the other crazy thing is the missile that they used to shoot it down is like a $400,000 missile.
Really?
It's like a legit, like,
give me a BB gun and I can take it down.
Well, that was one of the things. It's like, I'm sure millions of Americans tried to shoot it, but it was so high up in the sky that no one was able to hit it.
Let's see.
There were Americans in Missouri and South Carolina popping off.
I'm wondering how high, I know it said, but do you remember how high it was flying?
I think it was a couple miles high, like 2 or 3 miles high.
All right, and in contrast, about like how high is an airplane? Much higher?
If how high do airplanes fly?
Yeah.
I think 20,000 feet, 50,000 feet, 10,000 meters. Why are you telling me in meters? It says the highest certified altitude of an airliner was 60,000 feet. Corporate jets can fly at about 50 to 51,000 feet. Most airliners are limited to 45,000 feet.
45,000. Got it.
So I believe when you get above 10,000 feet, that's like, I think that's cruising altitude, where you can just like start to go.
Right.
I don't know.
Let's see. Oh my gosh, that balloon is way bigger than I thought it was.
They said it was the size of like 3 buses.
It's 200 feet tall. That's a huge balloon. And it was carrying a payload weighing more than 2,000 pounds.
Payload and what? Like a payload of just like cameras and sensors and stuff?
I don't think they've told us what it is, but they did say it was, they did consider it to be surveillance equipment.
Okay, yeah. So, solar panels, surveillance cameras, wow.
Who knows?
Dude, the size of a jetliner. Like, that's massive.
That's a huge balloon. 200 feet?
And, like,
is that how big weather balloons are?
I don't know.
How big are weather balloons? Oh, yeah. 2.5 to 8 feet. It wasn't a weather balloon.
About 6 feet wide.
Yeah, that is.
I bet this is the same balloon from the Battle of Los Angeles that was apparently just a weather balloon.
Yep. The one that an army fired 10,000 rounds at.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, what a crazy event.
That though, like, if they're trying to pass this off as, oh, just a weather balloon, like, do you need 2,000 pounds of equipment and something that's that big if weather balloons can be made to be 6 feet?
Also, like, I'm pretty sure they said like it was an amateur weather balloon. Like it wasn't like the government. It was like a university or something.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why all the way over here though? I don't get
that.
Did
you also hear that I think it was 40 other countries reported the same thing?
Really? I had heard more reported. I didn't know it was that many. So was it the same balloon or was it different balloons?
I don't know. Oh, the balloon was at 60,000 feet in the air. Wow, dang. That is higher than.
Well, how did people see it then? Because like, if you just see, how could they tell it was a balloon? Because if you just see,
it's 200 feet,
50,000. Yeah, but an airliner at cruising altitude, it looks like a dot in the sky. Like you'd never be able to differentiate. Oh, that's a balloon and not a plane. You know?
No idea.
Maybe it was coming down a lot lower when it was passing over land.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
The debris field, when they went to go get it, was 7 miles wide. Let's see.
So reading here, it says, like, both sides of the argument, I guess. Some people say, like, why did you take so long to shoot it down if it really was, something bad? So some people are speculating that the government is in cahoots with China, but then others are saying, well, like, why did you shoot it down at all? Because it could have had weapons like bioweapons, nuclear weapons on it, and we had no idea. So, yeah, to make that call even for a simple balloon would be tough. But if you're going to make the call, don't take 4 or 5 days to do it, you know?
Oh, here's something interesting. They claimed it to just drifted over here because of like the wind stream, whatever they call it. Currents, but in the air. But it did have small motors and multiple propellers that allowed China to actively maneuver the balloon over specific locations. It was steered by a rudder. Comparable to the size of the Statue of Liberty.
Oh my gosh. Dude, that's crazy to me that they can just be like, yeah, this is some amateur that made this with $2,000 worth of solar, or 2,000 pounds of panels and equipment. Like, what amateur's going to have access to that grade of solar panel and equipment to fly something 60,000 feet in the air? Plus, it technically is illegal to fly stuff up that high because that's like regulated airspace. So if it was an amateur, they'd be in huge trouble for doing that, unless they had special permission. But if I remember, anything above 200 feet in the air is considered like government airspace.
Also, I'm pretty sure when we shot it down, a Chinese official came out and said something like, we have the right to reciprocate because this is like violating treaties or something like that. And it was just like, if it's just a weather balloon, you wouldn't care that much. Like, You would, if it was a weather balloon, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. That was a weather balloon. It wasn't supposed to go over that. Like, that's our bad. So sorry, not this crap.
Right.
Or even like a phone call being like, hey, Mr. Biden, one of our weather balloons has gone rogue. It's heading over your way. Just an FYI. Don't be alarmed. But then again, China's not very cooperative in most things. But it's just that easy, folks. World peace is literally that easy.
Jack for President 2024?
Yes, Kanye is my running mate.
I don't know anymore, man. Maybe before there was a slight chance, but
yeah, no, he kind of he fell off the deep end.
Well, that is not the only strange airborne incident that has happened. There have been at least 3 others, kind of up in the Alaskan Canadian regions.
Okay, so let's go. Let's look at these. What's the first one? Because I don't know much about these. All I know is that there were 3 more things they described as UFOs, not as aliens, but as unidentified objects. And that's all I know.
So the first one was spotted on February 9th over Alaska. And so the White House came out and said that it was just a small object, that it was traveling northeast across Alaska. And so they sent up a couple F-35s to go check it out. And they didn't say what it was, but they said that it did end in so the F-35s went up on the 9th to identify it. They never said exactly what it was, but then on the 10th, some other jets, they sent out some F-22s out that tracked it and fired a missile at it to shoot it down. And they said that it was not a manned aircraft. They were able to determine that it wasn't manned, which if you're hitting it with the missile, wouldn't the man be kind of disintegrated anyway? So I don't know. Maybe it was small enough that it wasn't able to fit a man inside it or something. I don't know, but they did say that it was described as cylindrical and silverish gray, and it seemed to be floating. Not like it was being propelled, but that it was just kind of like floating and moving in a floating pattern, which we don't really have anything that I know of other than maybe like a helicopter or like a personal drone that would be able to like move slowly and appear as floating like that, because real planes obviously are powered by jet engines, so they go crazy fast. And I don't know exactly what height it was at, but they did say that it was up in like flight space, so it was at the altitude that planes would fly at, and so they didn't want to take the risk of it being in that airspace, so they shot it down. It was detected by ground radar as well, so that's when they originally detected it, was on ground radar, and then they sent up jets the next day to shoot it. Third object, February 10th, so this is the same day that the first one, or the second one was shot down. They saw that one the 9th, shot it down on the 10th. This one, so NORAD detected another high altitude object over Alaska late in the day that day, and so they sent up a couple more F-22s to go check it out, and by that time it had crossed over into Canadian airspace, and so then the President Biden and Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, had a call, and Biden was able to authorize U.S. aircraft to go take it down. So they shot that down with another Sidewinder missile, which I'm trying to figure out how much the Sidewinder missiles cost. It says they're about $381,000. So we shot 3 things down with Sidewinders in a matter of days. So that was a cool $1,200 for 3 little.
Seriously, just
thing. 12
couldn't a couple 50 cal bullets from a jet take it down?
Not 1,200, $1,200,000 in a couple days. 3 missiles. Yep. I think we could have sent a couple of Americans up there to take it down for about $50. I would have gone up with my 30-06 and shot at it, you know.
Here's a rifle. Here's your pilot. Get in the back.
every Texan would have been lining up for the chance to go do that.
They would have paid to do that.
Okay, so that was the third object, and then the fourth object 2 days later, February 12th, another high altitude detection was shot down over Lake Huron.
Where is
and
that?
It is up in
Michigan?
the Great Lakes region. Yeah, so Michigan in that area. And Biden directed this one to be shot down as well. And it was mostly out of, like, they said, out of an, quote, abundance of caution because of the other 3 incidents over the past, couple days. This one was also detected on radar over Montana, so same path as the balloon, on February 11th, and then was seen again on radar over Wisconsin and Michigan on the 12th. So this one was, they said it was octagonal in structure, so an octagon shape. It was also unmanned, and it was traveling at about 20,000 feet in the air. There wasn't any indication that it...
That's a strange shape for any flying thing, right?
Yeah, basically a flying stop sign. And so about 20,000 feet, so up in flight space, and they said that it wasn't manned. They didn't show any signs of it having surveillance equipment or capabilities, but they couldn't rule that out because they had no idea what it was, obviously. So again, that was on February 12th that they shot that down. And then on the 15th, the defense secretary was kind of pushing back at the government saying, like, what's going on here? Like, why are we shooting all this crap down? Why is this all happening right now? How can we figure this out? But really, they haven't figured out exactly what it is yet. And so on the 16th, Biden came out and gave a formal speech about the balloon and said that they'd shot down a couple other things as well, and claimed that it was out of this abundance of caution that they shot everything down.
Okay.
They also did claim that the other 3 objects were unidentified. And so we don't know who they were from. We don't know what they were. But they all seem to be kind of similar in scope of what they were, how they looked. Obviously, different kind of shapes. But
I don't know if you saw this, but the Lake Huron one, they had to fire 2 missiles at it. The first one missed.
Is that the one where the missiles are like spinning and then they hit it and it blows up or whatever?
I don't know. I just see this. It says first missile shot at unidentified object over Lake Huron missed. General confirms. So that's add another $300,000 to that total.
Dude, so I saw this video of something. It looked like I couldn't tell what it was, but there were 2 planes or there's 1 plane in the picture as well. And so the thing was like floating in the air. 1 plane's like in the background flying around, but then there were like 2 missiles like spiraling around it, and then they came together and hit it, and it just like disappeared. Jeez. And blew up. It was like kind of like an infrared camera, like one of those FLIR cameras that you see on the UFO videos that the government released a few years ago. But it's kind of crazy, and I haven't been able to find that video since. So I don't know if that was from these incidents or not, but yeah, a couple $1 million probably to go shoot everything out of the sky. And they all were in similar locations, all kind of had a similar path. And obviously one was huge, the others were smaller, but we don't know where these other 3 were from. So who knows if they're alien, Chinese, Russian, no idea. But kind of a fun and freaky thing to happen with all the other stuff going on. And so a lot of people are saying the government is doing this or like staging these incidents to distract from all the other stuff going on in the country as well, which the big one being what everyone is calling Chernobyl 2.0, or this train derailment in Ohio with chemical spills.
Oh, geez.
And so
that one's
they think
crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people think the government's saying, hey, there's UFOs to take the heat off of this dumpster fire of a chemical spill in Ohio. So, like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think the government would stage something like UFOs to help take the heat off of, like, another botched situation in the country? Or do you think that's not very feasible?
No, I think that's giving them too much credit, honestly. I think if you wanted to, I don't know, if the U.S. government wanted to distract people, it would be in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? very small way, unnoticeable way kind of thing. What's discreet? That's the word I was looking for. Discreet way. Something that, not something huge like, oh my gosh, UFOs. More like, oh hey, let's just tinker the housing prices just a little bit, and then everything will be that kind of thing. I don't know. That doesn't seem like I don't know. If it was actually them trying to hide it, I think they would have made a bigger deal out of it.
Right.
Or, let people take videos of it and things, like let it circulate quite a bit. But I don't know. I really don't know anything about these UFOs, really. That's why I'm saying that. It's just like, oh, there's some things up there, and then we shot them down.
Right.
Okay. That's not much. And honestly, if that was their distracting from the train thing, it was a horrible job, because that thing is front and center in the news.
Well, there's some fishy stuff with that too. So basically what happened was a train derailed and there's a fire, and the train was carrying some toxic chemicals. I don't remember exactly what the chemicals were. Vinyl something. Vinyl chloride, I think. So yeah, vinyl chloride. And so I don't know exactly what vinyl chloride does. I know that they use it to make some certain plastic products. So it's part of what's used to make polyvinyl chloride, which is a resin that's used to make hard plastic items. So as toxicity, so it can cause different kinds of cancers. It's been known to, at higher doses, cause cancer, but then with lower doses over a period of time, can cause prolonged health effects as well. So higher doses, more immediate cancer type, not immediate, but like it's more drastic and quicker that somebody would get cancer, whereas smaller doses over time, it's, more of a chronic long-term thing that cancer would come about. But so basically there's been this fire burning there, and this cloud of toxic smoke was released into the air. And it's killed off a lot of livestock. It's killed off a lot of plants. Like, that's right in the middle of farm country, right? Like prime farmland in the US. So it's killing off a lot of America's food supply there. I mean, it is the middle of winter right now, but if anything is stored there in grain silos or factories or anything like that and being processed, that could all be tainted by toxic gas now.
Yeah, and I think I saw a video of like the water in like a canal or something like that, and it just, like, when you see oil on like the pavement and it rains, it's like that got that rainbowy effect to it. All the water looked like that. It was like disturbing.
Basically like a gas station parking lot.
Yeah.
So sorry, go on.
I don't know, like I think, is it toxic in the air too? Like, can you breathe it?
So it's like a toxic gas. So I think they evacuated for a while. I don't know if they've released like a return home order or anything like that.
Will it like get into the soil? Will they have to get rid of those crops if there are any nearby?
That's hard to say, right? I mean, it's only been a week or two since this happened. I don't remember the exact date that it happened, but I would assume that it's going to have some kind of long-term effect on the land, because I don't know if you've seen pictures of like the cloud of smoke that released into the air, but I'll post some maps too of like surrounding areas all the way up into like Michigan and surrounding states even that have been affected by the air. Like, I read something today where somebody in an adjacent state was able to smell like a strong chlorine smell. Like, they were able to smell the stuff, and they're hundreds of miles away. And so I would assume that, this is going to have some long-term effects, but it's hard to say exactly what, but it is suspicious with some other things going on that it's happening right in kind of farmland America, but also at a time where a lot of other things that are similar seem to be going on as well.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I got nothing.
They issued evacuation orders, I think the day of or the day after, I don't know how soon people returned home, but
I'm pretty sure they, like, after a day, they said, okay, you can come back, but then immediately put it back on, like a never mind, stay away kind of thing.
Yeah, and they also recommended that people use bottled water too.
It says that it says the Ohio River got contaminated, and it is a water source for 5 million people.
Yep,
that's a lot of people.
And I think that trickles into other rivers too, that then go down to southern states as well. Like it might go into the Missouri River or other bigger rivers.
It made it as far as West Virginia, according to this.
Yeah, and that dude, I think that this is going to have like untold effects on the already limited food supply chain, but water as well. So they told people like use bottled water, but then the day after they said that, the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency said, "Oh yeah, we're sure that like the municipal water's safe, but if you have a private well, don't drink it. Test it first. Like our water's good, but your water, like you better test it."
Weird.
Yeah. So the other thing that was crazy that I saw, and I'll try to find this video again and post it in the show notes, but I saw a link. So it's supposedly like an explosion on this train. I saw a link of the train on fire like an hour before.
I saw that too at night.
Yeah, like a slow fire of it burning like 30 to 60 minutes before the train was derailed. So it's supposedly a derailment, and that's what caused the fire. But there was a fire before the train derailed.
I mean, it's not unlikely that a fire could cause a derailment either. So
sure.
I mean, I don't know anything about trains, but I'm sure if something lit on fire, yeah, a sharp turn of some sort could cause something to go wrong or make something explode. But who knows?
Right.
Oh, and then and then afterwards they had like a what is it? A press release kind of thing where like a city official or state official like was talking to a bunch of people about it, and in the back there was a guy named Evan Lambert who was doing like he was a journalist, so he's in the back being filmed talking about it, you know, like you would see on the news, saying like, well, he's talking to us now about what's going on. Anyway, police came up to him and said, you can't record, like you can't be here kind of thing. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, of course I can record, it's a political event, like this happens all the time. And they ended up tackling him to the ground and arresting him because he was trying to do a news story on it. And it was just like, that's kind of weird. And also apparently just like the officials are being pretty quiet about it. Like they aren't being open, I guess, about what's happened, what's going to happen. People there, like living there, just like, we don't even know what's happening. Like,
well, it's hard to say what's going to happen, you know, because I mean, look at like the COVID vaccines, and I don't want to come out as either anti-vax or pro-vax, so don't take this either way, but look at everything that's happening now health-wise with young people. And we never, like, no one knew 2 years ago how the long-term effects of that would be, you know? And so, like, yeah, people can say that this is going to be perfectly safe, but we have no idea.
Right.
The weirdest thing to me is that when the train crashed, some cars like fell into a trench, and they actually released the gas from the cars and burnt it off, and that's what caused the smoke.
So it was controlled release.
Yeah, it was like a controlled release of the chemical.
Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. But one of the gases that is produced is called phosgene gas, and it's...
Oh man. Yeah, sorry, I just found the picture with the cloud above it, and it is a gnarly cloud. Here, I'll put it up on screen for people to see. But sorry, keep going.
So phosgene gas was actually, I believe it's part of the Geneva Convention as considered like an act of terrorism or like a bioweapon of war, like a chemical weapon of war.
Like white phosphorus?
And it was actually, so phosgene gas, yeah, it was responsible for like 80-something% of all of the chemical weapon fatalities in World War One.
Jeez.
So it's definitely a toxic gas, and it's included in the Geneva Convention as like a weapon of war. I wanna see what it's actually listed at. But so it says prohibition of use in war of asphyxiating poisonous or other gases, and of bacteriological methods of warfare. So it was signed in 1925 to ban it as a weapon of war, basically. Jeez. And like then we've got people just like doing a controlled burn of it in the public. Like, yeah, we can't use it to kill our enemies, but we'll burn it right here in our own city. Jeez. And just release it out there. You know, like that's what's crazy to me is that they're just like, oh yeah, we'll just release it right here. I don't know the difference of burning it versus just letting it go out, you know, whether burning it causes more toxicity or whether it actually like benefits more than if it was just released out.
If you burn it out, it goes away kind of thing. But if you release it, it stays in the atmosphere. I don't know.
I'd imagine that, I'm not either, but I'd imagine that if you just release the gas rather than burn it, it would kind of dissipate. But if you burn it and create all this toxic smoke, like, I don't know. But they did say the air was safe to return home like a couple days later after this happened. So, yeah. Some of the pictures, though, are crazy of that black cloud.
Yeah. This is funny. You ever see the movie Super 8?
It's been a while, but yes.
About the kids filming for their school project or whatever, or the summer festival about the alien. Anyway, it's this site says, incidentally, where is East Palestine, which is where this crash happened. It says south of Youngstown along Pennsylvania, Ohio border. And then the next line is, isn't this area of the country in which a mysterious train derailment occurs in the 2011 J.J. Abrams movie Super 8? The next one's just, yes.
Yes.
Interesting.
That is crazy, man. See, I could take this as like a freak thing if there weren't similar things happening in other spots as well. So
Arizona is the one I know.
Why don't you discuss that one?
Okay, so let's see. In Tucson, Arizona, on what was this? The 15th? No, 14th. A few days ago from today, anyway. This one doesn't have the day it happened for some reason, but a truck driver, Ricky Immel, 54 years old, was traveling home from his home state of Nevada to Alabama with a load of packages of liquid nitric acid Tuesday afternoon. Okay, Tuesday. That would have been the 14th, yeah. Ooh, Valentine's Day. When his vehicle left the roadway and flipped onto the left side and then into the median, and he was then declared dead at the scene. The cause of the accident are under investigation. It is not believed to be speeding or intoxication. He was traveling with his service dog, the dog survived, good. Which will be reunited with his wife, and officials who did not say what type of assistance animal was trained for. It's fair. Basically, it for about 2 miles of Interstate 10 in Tucson, Arizona, they had to close it down because of the 40,000 pounds of nitric acid that spilled onto the asphalt roadway that runs through the dry land scattered with scrub brush. I don't know much about nitric acid. Doesn't sound healthy, though. Do you know anything about nitric acid?
So I know that it's used in a lot of fertilizers, and also I believe it's used in some
fertilizers,
bombs, like TNT
dyes, and explosives. I do remember those were the 3 things it's used for. Thank you for jogging my memory. In Arizona, Pima County's Health Department and Poison Control Center recommended that anyone who may have been in contact with it for more than 15 minutes get medical evaluation immediately. Symptoms can be delayed for up to 24 hours after exposure. If you simply drove through or past the accident, you should be fine. So this was not nearly as bad as the train derailment, but this is still within 2 weeks, with less than 2 weeks apart from it. Another big toxic spill that was a pretty big issue. This can cause irritant to the eyes, skin, mucous membranes, depending on how long somebody is exposed to it. So not nearly as bad, but I mean, the stuff is used in explosives, and fertilizer, which also is not good.
Right.
So it's a little... Is it a coincidence? Maybe, but I don't know. It just kind of seems interesting that 2 toxic crashes within 2 weeks of each other happened. So there are a lot of people thinking that this is an inside job for some reason. Who knows why? Maybe it's not what they actually say is in there. Maybe it's just a bunch of LSD and they're doing MK Ultra again.
Yeah, who knows? But that's not the only chemical thing that has happened.
Is there
not
more?
The only 2, I guess. So I heard of one in Texas. I can't find the information on it.
I also heard about one in Texas.
I've been looking it up and I can't find the specific Texas train semi spill or something similar to the one in Arizona. But the other one that just started a day or 2 ago is a fire in Florida at a factory that makes plastic planter pots for plants is on fire, and it's also releasing these toxic plastic burning fumes into the air. It's kind of it's in Kissimmee, Florida, so pretty close to where Disney World is, kind of Orlando area.
Okay.
It came in this morning at about 2 a.m. Florida time on Thursday morning, and at that point it was just pallets that had these like plastic pots on them that were on fire, but then so it was about 2 acres of pallets, and then it spread into a 5-acre burn completely of this factory and all these plants and stuff. But again, burning plastic that is releasing, some toxic fumes into the air. So who knows what kind of effect this is going to have as well long-term on the health of people there with these toxic fumes.
Oh, wait. There's another one. A day after the Arizona trucking crash, a chemical fire broke out in a storage tanker in Oklahoma. And then after that was the massive fire in a warehouse storing plastic plant pots in Florida. And there's just a lot of this stuff going on. And yes, everything I'm looking at here is basically saying, and then they're releasing UFOs to try to hide it.
Yeah.
This person tweeted, really wild how nobody's talking about the train crash, chemical burn in East Palestine, I don't know exactly. Is it Palestine? I don't know.
Palestine, yep.
Ohio, toxic chemicals, poison towns in multiple states, maybe forever. And there's an entire movie about the exact same scenario made late last year. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Did you hear about that? There was apparently a movie made that was released in November or December about a train derailing in Ohio with toxic spills or something like that. People are like, there's no way that's a coincidence.
So, yeah, I heard something briefly about that. It's, I think the movie was released in I thought it was released in 2022. So let's see. So the movie is called White Noise. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the one with Adam Driver in it. Yep. And it was about a train derailment that happens like in the 80s or something, where a truck runs into a train. That's right. Yeah. And this is where the name for the band, the Airborne Toxic Event, comes from. If you've ever heard of that band, comes from.
It's an absurdist comedy drama. That's the official genre of this movie. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So the movie was based on a book called White Noise. That was written, I don't know when, but the band, the Airborne Toxic Event, got their name from this book called White Noise, and they call the incident the Airborne Toxic Event. So it's in pop culture for sure.
This person brings up another thing on Twitter saying, so when do we reach the point when we can agree that all these fires with poisonous chemicals are no coincidence anymore? Also interesting that they only are happening in red states. I don't know if that's true or not, but another thing to take into consideration. Texas, for sure. Arizona. Is Arizona a red state? Yeah, I think so.
I believe it is, yeah.
Ohio? No idea. Florida? Yes.
So Ohio is it's a swing state.
Well, then.
But it's a lot of farmers and rural Americans, which I feel like are mostly red.
Yeah.
But then they have these large cities with obviously a lot of more liberalism there.
Like Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
It's a purple state.
A purple state. What I think is weird, and this goes along with a lot of the conspiracy theories that happened throughout the pandemic and still now. So the one in Ohio specifically, with it happening close to so much of the nation's critical farmland, is that the government, if they are orchestrating this, is orchestrating it to limit the food supply to Americans.
Why on earth would you want to do that?
Well, if you limit food, if you control the food, then you control the country. Like, you control everybody at that point.
They already control the country.
Right. But what's also suspicious is that Bill Gates has become he is the person in the country that owns the most farmland out of anybody. He's been buying up farmland like crazy. And he was very involved with the vaccines as well. So there's a lot of theories that he's tied into this all so that Bill Gates and the government can control the nation's food supply, whether they want to make money that way or whether they want to have control over the country in some way. But that's the conspiracy, right? Is that the government is trying to gain control over us and basically limit our food supply.
As of 2021, so this is 2 years ago, guess how much farmland, Bill Gates owned in terms of acres?
In 2021?
Yeah, so this is 2 years ago.
5,000 acres.
242,000 acres.
Okay. That's how much he owns now, or how much he owned then?
It says as of January 2021, his farmland reported 242,000 acres of farmland. So, it could be more 2 years later. That's a lot of farmland.
Yeah. So, I saw this thing with all of the vaccine conspiracy coming out saying that it's causing the cardiac arrest and everything and people to just drop dead.
Oh, yeah.
I saw this guy that said, I bet all of my life savings that after these chemical incidents, the government's going to come out and say that these chemicals are what's causing people to suddenly drop dead. And just...
Instead of... So people don't blame the what's it called? Holy crap.
Vaccines.
Vaccine, thank you.
Yep. So, pay attention to that, because at one point it was they were blaming eggs, and then there was a massive egg shortage, and then, which is another thing, since Bill Gates owns so much farmland, they're apparently the shortage of eggs is fabricated as well, and I don't know. But all of this seems to be tied in together if you look at it from a conspiratorial angle, right?
Yeah. So I heard the egg shortage is because of bird flu. So when one chicken has bird flu, you have to kill every chicken in the warehouse, basically, because it's more than likely that they all have it, kind of thing. And people are being like, well, why is it weird that we're having an egg shortage but not a chicken shortage? Like,
well, yeah, that is like chickens have just stopped laying the eggs, right? Is what I've heard a lot. But it just seems weird to me. I don't know.
Weird. I don't know. What do you think?
Speaking of chicken shortages, though, there was a massive fire at a farm in Connecticut at the end of January, so on January 28th, and over 100,000 egg-laying chickens were killed in the fire.
Wow.
Yep. So, yeah. A lot of farms are burning down, a lot of
toxins being released.
Yeah.
A lot of UFOs.
A lot of food-related things, it seems, are happening. Like chickens are dying and farmland is being contaminated by toxins and burning down, and who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's actually any merit to any of these conspiracies? Not like, are they true? Just like, do you think it's possible that any of this, not all of it, any of it is fabricated? Not fabricated, but I guess purposefully done. The fires, the crashes, the chickens, the UFOs, I don't know what else there was. Any of them on purpose?
Before I speak to that,
okay.
I will say one more thing. So have you heard of the Nord Stream pipeline?
Yes.
So the Nord Stream pipeline is a gas pipeline that connects Russia to Germany and kind of the rest of Europe. And it was recently blown up as well.
I did hear something about that. It
exploded, and it's like deep under the water. And so it exploded under the water, and the conspiracy is that the US blew it up. Why? I don't know exactly. Probably to sabotage Russia in the war against Ukraine somehow. But in doing that, they're also sabotaging the rest of Europe because Russia is a huge supplier of oil and gas to Europe. And
I thought, didn't they already shut down that pipeline a while, during the war, to stop the oil to Europe to hurt them because they were helping Ukraine?
I believe Russia stopped it because the big thing in the winter was that Germany was starved for energy, and everyone was freezing cold there, and they didn't have gas. And so if the US does this and anyone finds out that we did it and blew up a major gas pipeline to hurt Russia, we're hurting tons of allies as well in Europe. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say that the US did that. But also, now to speak to your question, there have been so many conspiracies against the US government in my lifetime. 9/11 was a big one. And I'm not speaking to any of these other ones, but there's so many weird, strange things happening right now and in the past year or two that it's impossible for me to say that none of it is fabricated. I don't feel like there's ever been more huge things happening all at once that seem to be somehow related or tied together in pretty major ways that I have to say maybe is all of it fabricated? No, but I believe some of it is. And I do believe with the state of the country, I don't want to portray myself as a conspiracy nut, but the country is kind of in shambles right now, and I wouldn't put it past, I'm not saying anyone specific or any leader specifically, but I wouldn't put it past anyone in a position of power to try to gain control, especially with the direction and division in the country right now and the search for the upper hand and to have power over the other side. I'm not saying that all this stuff is fabricated and the government's behind it all, but I'll say I believe they're probably behind some of it.
I'm gonna go out and say they know something that we don't, and they're keeping it from us. I guarantee that.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time the government's like kept stuff from citizens too. Like we've been talking about sneak peek to a JFK episode coming up soon. Like in doing research for that, there is still classified stuff with that the government still won't release about the JFK assassination,
even though they were like ordered to.
Years later. Yeah, 60 years ago that happened, and
okay,
it's like,
I want to get some perspective to all the people that are listening. That when it goes like. Anybody that believes that the government has conspiracies is crazy kind of thing. I need to get this across. Here are conspiracy theories that happened that were proven to be true that actually happened. Okay, number one, the U.S. Department of Treasury poisoned alcohol during Prohibition and people died because of it. That was a big conspiracy theory and it was true. I'm not going to dwell on these too much because we don't have a lot of time, but number two, the U.S. Public Health Service lied about treating black men with syphilis for more than 40 years. Number three, more than 100 million Americans received the polio vaccine contaminated with potentially cancer-causing virus. Did it on purpose. Part of the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which led the U.S. intervention into Vietnam, never happened. They fabricated our reason to go to Vietnam. Number five, military leaders reportedly planned terrorist attacks in the U.S. to drum up support in the war against Cuba. They faked terrorist attacks on the United States to give a reason to attack Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Number six, we all know about this one. The government tested the effects of LSD on unwitting U.S. and Canadian citizens under the codename MK Ultra. Did a whole episode on that. There's like 10 more. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you get the point. It's foolish to believe that the government is honest with you about everything. I'm not saying they're bad and you should just like never believe anything the government has to say, but I'm saying you shouldn't wholeheartedly always trust them, I guess. I'm trying not to sound like a huge conspiracy nut, you know.
Here's the thing, though. It's hard to not right now, you know? Like, how can you, like, I feel like saying that you believe everything that's going on right now is just a coincidence is even nuttier than saying you believe it's a conspiracy. Like,
that's true. Like, I feel like there's merit to both sides, like, equal.
Yeah. Have you read, it's a James Bond quote. It's how does it go? Let me look it up real quick. It's, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, three times is enemy action. So with all this stuff, like 3 chemical spills, all these fires, all of these things being shot down in the sky, like, I don't believe just within the last week that's all happened, or 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Like, that's insane that much has happened in a couple of weeks. And with the U.S. fighting this proxy war in Russia and like all this stuff going on, it's all got to be tied together somehow. Whether it's nefarious, whether it's like the U.S. trying to protect us somehow, whether it's other like byproducts of things the U.S. is doing, I don't know. But it's fishy to me, man. It's really fishy. And I'm not going to jump out and say I 100% believe that it's all conspiracy, but it's fishy. And I think that's the mindset that we have to have now going into things is, like you said, don't believe everything that's being told to you. Like, research it out for yourself, find the facts, and like get your own opinion on it. Because I think that's a trap that a lot of people today fall into, is we just believe what we hear on the news, or we just believe
you read it online and go, hey, well, this is true. Like, check this out, and you share it with your friend. Like, this happened, kind of thing.
You read it from one source, and like, you know. So one of the funniest examples of like media, like bias, I guess, that I ever saw was like 2 or 3 years ago, is when Trump was still president. I guess it had to be 4 years ago. So Trump was still president, and I was at the gym, and there was I won't mention networks, but there was a very liberal network on one TV and there was a very conservative network on the other TV. And one of the networks was reporting on like an explosion that happened somewhere at a factory in the Middle East or something, and how tons of people had died. And the other network was reporting on how Trump used a fork to eat fried chicken on his private plane. And I was like, what? Oh, and then the explosion was like, so they had like that headline on the screen and they were showing a video of Trump like eating something. And then underneath they were like running small headlines across the bottom. And that the explosion in the Middle East was like the tiny headline running across the bottom. And the whole time I was at the gym, this other network was reporting on this explosion for like an hour, you know? And so I'm not saying I like tie myself to either of these networks, but like, it was just so crazy to me to see the disparity and like the attacking of somebody when clearly there is something much more important going on in the world. And so it made me in that moment realize like I really need to do my research from like multiple sources and try and get accurate information rather than just like reading a headline and believing it, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a, if you guys really want to know the best people to listen to in terms of news, it's not Fox, it's not CNN. Both of them are pretty far either side. What you can do is you can Google, do like news bias chart or media bias chart, something like that. And it'll bring up a thing that says like, here are the left-leaning ones and here are the right-leaning ones. And here's the ones that you should listen to. Looking one up right now.
Have you ever listened to Crystal and Sagar? Breaking Points
not.
is the name of their podcast. So Crystal and Sagar are one is left leaning, one is right leaning, and they host a political podcast where they discuss like ideas, and it's very civil, right? Like they don't like really argue or get mad at each other. Like it's very civil. They can have great conversations. Yeah, but they're an independent media too, so they're not paid for by CNN or Fox or anybody. Like they're completely on their own, and so they just do all the research themselves. They're not being told by a producer like you have to push an agenda. And so their podcast is called Breaking Points, and they do like brief episodes. There's another one called what's it called? It's like a brief daily one that you can go listen to that's like 5 to 10 minutes long. And it just gives you like the talking points every day of what's going on in the world. And then we'll give you ideas of like, here's where you can go to look for more information on this. But Breaking Points, again, with Crystal and Sagar is really good. They also have a YouTube channel. But I love listening to that because I know I'm getting an unbiased, unpaid for opinion and like an objective view on something, even though they both lean another way. Like they try to discuss it and like see the other side. So I appreciate that.
Is it called The Daily, the one you were thinking of?
It's
I know there's one called The Daily that's about daily news, basically, but I'm not sure.
Maybe it is. I can't remember for sure what it's called. Maybe it is The Daily.
Story of the Day by NPR. That'd be pretty good. Who knows? There's a lot.
I want to say it's called... I don't remember. I'd have to find out.
Oh, well. The only real podcast that you need to worry about is Tangent. Let's be real. But, yeah, there's some fun goings on in this current day and age. And we'll have to do more of these current events type things.
I kind of like these because it's real. You know, it's more real than some of the stuff we go over.
This stuff did happen. It's not like, did they actually see the UFO, or was there actually a Mothman? Were they making it up, kind of thing? Like, those are obviously really fun, but this is a fun change of pace too.
Yeah.
So, let us know what you think. Was it all conspiracy? Was it all set up by the government? Was only some of it set up by the government? If so, which parts? I am curious.
I love conspiracies too. I think we need to do more dedicated conspiracy rabbit hole episodes, like the JFK one coming up.
Oh, dude, I've been studying on the JFK one. I think Austin has a little bit too. It's crazy. Like, I was just like reading it. It's like, there's no way I could fit this all into this episode. Like, I'm gonna either need to study more and cut some stuff out, or maybe make it a 2-parter.
We could do a 2-parter. Like, I was thinking we could do one just about like the life of JFK, everything leading up to him getting assassinated, and then like conspiracies about who did it, you know? Because there are so many events that lead up to it that you're like, oh, all of these events have different people involved that all could have motive to kill him.
Right.
So we'll figure that out, and we'll format it for you guys, but be excited about that one because it'll be good.
It'll be good, hopefully. All right. Well, you got anything else to leave with our viewers before we call her a day?
No, I feel like I got really involved into that though, because it's a crazy one. But no, we love you guys. Hopefully you're all safe wherever you are, and thank you so much for listening.
And have yourselves a wonderful week.